just coming in here, we got a big lineup change today. Chris Kelly here. Chris Demm's off, just a vacation, planned vacation day. But BB Shea is in. Biggie, struggling with his health, still out, unfortunately. Red Rachel is in here. I'm getting good reviews on you, Red Rachel. I am. I know it. Suddenly, everybody's like, get rid of Chris Kelly and keep Red Rachel. That's what
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are thinking that. That's why Lisa Lanier just texted me. She's like, "What are you doing there?" Here she is, our official attorney of this program. Hello, Lisa. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I hope you are.
Doing very well, thank you. This segment is called Lawyer Up, inside several legal cases. We do it every week at this time. I have to say, you watch White Lotus, don't you? I've watched it.
Love White Lotus. Love White Lotus.
Are you caught up on this show?
I'm so caught up on it. I sit and wait on Sunday nights,
Yes.
for that clock to tick over so I can watch it.
Can you believe this last episode where I shouldn't even say what's going on, but these brothers are doing things that brothers were not supposed to do to each other. Let me just say that. And
you know what? I went to bed worried I was going to have a sex dream about it.
I know, yeah. Well, she did that with the Menendez brothers because they were...
Exactly.
I mean, they were doing things to each other they ought not be doing together, showering together and whatnot. And Lisa did have a sex dream about either Eric or Lyle Menendez. We know that. It's on the record.
To say which one.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right. Yeah, well, I get them confused.
Yeah.
I don't really know which one's which. But anyway, on this White Lotus, there is a family from Durham, North Carolina, and the wife went to Chapel Hill. And in fact, they say early on, well, he went to Duke, but I went to Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
Of course, they're dead, and he's on lorazepam, and he's, man, he has committed a crime back here that he's going to go to jail for, which, so this guy is in a world of trouble. It's interesting, too, in this latest episode. Now, the daughter goes and sees this Buddhist monk, and she says, stop. He says, stop chasing money because all it leads to is pain. And the husband hears this, and that's what has happened to him because he's embezzled funds or something back here, and he's going to be arrested. But they're rich as they can be, but he's going to go to jail. And then he goes to his wife, and he says, maybe we should just, not be part of all this money thing. She goes, Tim, I can't live a poor lifestyle.
I would rather not live.
I would rather not. She goes, I would rather not live. And he had thought the same thing. He's like, I'd rather die than not have money. And listen, my wife and I were watching this, and she turned to me and said, I feel the exact same way. Because I was kind of with the Buddhist monk. I was like, he's right. She goes, are you out of your mind? Absolutely. I feel the exact same way. So anyway, that's where the lawsuit, it's not even a lawsuit yet, but it stems from. Duke University is angry because this lead character, who's very rich but is going to be in a lot of trouble, has contemplated suicide and murder-suicide in dream sequences. And the entire time he's wearing front and center this big Duke T-shirt. So it says Duke on it. And Duke has said, we appreciate artistic expression and creative storytelling, but characters are prominently wearing apparel bearing Duke's federally registered trademarks without permission, and they're doing things that goes against our values because it's like a murder-suicide that's taking place there. So our big question was, do they have to get permission to wear a Duke T-shirt on a television show? How does that work, Lisa?
Typically, they do, but when these have resulted in lawsuits, the brand rarely wins because it's a creative work. There's all kinds of exceptions to the use of the trademark, fair use, creative works, First Amendment protection. And so it is customary that normally, in fact, a lot of brands will pay for an endorsement, a product placement,
right.
Coca-Cola, beer products. But here, they didn't ask, and it's very important to the creative storyline. The dad went to Duke, and the Saxton, the son that was getting the hand job, he goes to Duke. I went to Duke.
Spoiler. Yeah, he's a Dookie. He got the hand job. Yeah,
So anyway, so the long story short is usually you send a cease and desist, which this is kind of like the Duke spokesman saying, "Hey, we don't appreciate this. Stop doing it." It's way too late for that. It's all done.
Oh yeah,
it's released. You know. And they're not going to sue over it because they would probably lose. But what they're wanting to do is to say, look, this doesn't portray us in a good light, and we just want to say, hey, we weren't a part of this. I think that's his whole point.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Well, Lisa, I have a question. I'm a big fan of the Kardashians. I will admit that. Now, does the type of show matter where they can and can't show logos? Because I see reality shows all the time where they have the logos for stuff blurred out.
They blur it out sometimes to keep from giving that product an endorsement, to keep from benefiting that product.
Yeah.
That's usually the reason. And a lot of times it may mean that, hey, they approached that Coca-Cola company or that beer company and they told them no, that they wouldn't pay for the endorsement, so they blurred them out.
Okay. That makes sense. I've read about, too, like in the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, there's a rental car company called Marathon. Well, it's fictional. And originally they had shot that or wanted to get permission from Hertz or Avis to use them. And the scene is, the rental car company's awful, and they treat the guy real badly. So everybody said absolutely not. So they had to make up a rental car company, which makes sense.
Yeah.
They don't want to be portrayed in that light. But I was with you. I was like, how can, just to wear a T-shirt, like they're not going to win that. And so you're right. They just wanted to get their name out there to say, we don't support these actions. In season 1, you remember when the guy took a dump in the suitcase in season 1?
Yeah. Yeah.
I told you I do not believe that was CGI. I believe that guy in season 1 he has to defecate in a suitcase, and I think anytime he had to defecate, he just raised his hand and said, "Let's shoot it now," and they go and shoot the scene.
I've heard that that's real defecation. I also read an interesting backstory thing that the dad in season 3, when he has a little brief moment of full frontal, that he wore a prosthetic.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And then he was asked about that. That's Jason. But listen, guy had a hog, and everybody was like, "Is that a prosthetic?" And finally, I think he admitted. Well, but now going back to when you had your sex dream about the Menendez bros, one of them was shown in the shower in prison, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's a prosthetic." And he's like, "Oh no, that's all Menendez."
Oh no, that was the real deal. That's right. Right.
And it's just like, geez, how can anybody compete against that? Yeah. The guy was cut like you wouldn't believe, and he's got that. Now, to the next story. This does not involve a celebrity or television shows, but it's an interesting case from United Airlines. There is a young man from New Jersey who was on a trip flying back from Mexico to Houston and then on the way to New Jersey. He is an Orthodox Jewish passenger, and that comes into play here later. He went to the bathroom and was in the bathroom for about 20 minutes without coming out. So one of the flight attendants went over to the guy he was flying with, his friend, and said, "Hey, your friend has been in the bathroom a pretty long time. Can we check on him?" So the other guy gets up, goes, knocks on the door, and says, "Everything all right?" The Orthodox Jew in the bathroom hollers back, "I'm constipated. I'm constipated." So everybody sits down. Well, 10 minutes later, he's still in the bathroom. The pilot gets involved and bangs on the door. He yells back again, "I'm constipated." And the pilot says, "No, we've got to break in there." They break the lock on the door. They break in. The door swings open. And in view of other passengers and the pilot and the flight attendants, we see his genitals. He's got his pants around his ankles. He is on the toilet. I can only think the pilot assumed he was doing some sort of drugs in there, as he'd been in there a half hour.
Smoking, making a bomb, who knows, right?
Something, right, exactly, something.
Right.
Well, now he's suing the airline because he said he was extremely embarrassed, of course, and he says the pilot and some others were making anti-Semitic remarks to him on the way out of the bathroom. Now, I haven't heard any other witnesses confirm that. What do you think about his case here, Lisa? Can they break into a bathroom when they think something's going on in there?
Yeah, I think they thought it was a safety issue, but I think once they realized that the dude is sitting in there with his pants down, not smoking, not making a bomb, what they should have done was close the door and let him finish his business.
Yeah.
But instead, they were really angry. And there's so much anger,
Yes.
and they yanked him out of there, half naked. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
Here's what, because I have to do, my son sits on the toilet forever, right when we're getting ready to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Here's what I say works every time. Pinch it off. Pinch it off. That's all I needed to say to the dude. Pinch it off.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah. But is there's no limit though on how long you could? Maybe people were waiting.
There's not. This guy, I think he's going to. And then they made matters worse by calling him. They said bad things about him for being Jewish.
Well,
come on.
Now that's the issue. if they really said that, then I get it. Especially, and you're right. There's so much anger on the plane. Are you a little surprised the pilot got involved? I could see a flight attendant.
Very.
Yeah.
Yes, very.
Yeah, me too.
And then Homeland Security hauled him off, and he was handcuffed, and he was held for 2 hours, and it got way out of hand. Something that should not have been this bad got way out of hand.
Yeah.
He has filed a federal lawsuit. It was an international flight, so he gets to invoke the Montreal Convention, which is pretty much strict liability. So I think he's actually going to recover something.
You do.
Because it's capped at $170,000. I mean, won't get a fortune.
Yeah.
But he'll get something.
Worth it for me. I'd take $170,000.
Heck
For that. Now, I don't know about this one though, and we were actually asking Biggie on this. Is it worth it to you? There's a 25-year-old guy, Michael Garcia. Now we've had this kind of case many times, but this one is interesting to me. Starbucks has had to pay him $50 million. Los Angeles is where he lives. He's a delivery driver, and he picked up some coffees, actually hot tea at Starbucks in February of 2020. And when the barista at Starbucks handed the tray full of hot teas to him, apparently she hadn't secured it in the tray properly. One of them flipped out onto his lap, burned him. Genitals were burned. He wound up getting $50 million. Now, usually in this case, it's like the lid that is faulty, the cup that is faulty. In this case, Lisa, it seems like she didn't. Just the barista herself didn't get it into the tray properly.
She also didn't secure the lid properly. It was both because the tea is served at such a hot temperature.
Yep.
It has this kind of locking lid that is supposed to the barista is supposed to push it down and hear it click, and it's called setting the lid, and it's very important because otherwise the lid. So then obviously she was in a hurry.
Yep.
She didn't secure it in the little carrier, and she didn't pop the lid on it like she was supposed to. And let me tell you, I mean, I read some really graphic accounts. This guy's junk was obliterated, like burned off his body.
Oh my God!
Dang.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that's awful.
Oh, yeah, third degree penis burn. I mean, if you could imagine that.
He deserves the $50 million.
Yeah, give it to him.
And he's only 25 years old too. I mean,
he's 25 years old, and he turned down. He's actually I thought this was amazing, and he's probably gonna live to regret it.
Mm-hmm.
He turned down a $30 million settlement offer with Starbucks because one of his conditions was that they institute nationwide a better training system for these baristas so this doesn't happen to someone else. Yeah. Starbucks refused to put that in the settlement, so he turned down the money, and he said, well, we'll go to court because I want the world to know that you need to do better. The problem is, the reason I think he may live to regret it, the jury came in with such a huge award, the judge is going to reduce it. And I just hope he or she doesn't reduce it more than $30 million because he turned down a $30 million offer on principle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for him. I mean, I agree with you. I hope he doesn't regret it, but that's just wrong. I mean, his whole life has changed dramatically because this girl didn't put the lid on right and didn't put it in the tray right.
Yeah, I don't know too many guys that would take $50 million to have their junk burned off with hot water.
Oh, I would.
Well,
easy.
Would you? Okay.
Put me to the test. If you do not believe me,
he's not using it.
Okay, well.
Can't look any worse.
But you're only 31.
I don't care. $50 million? That's a lot of money.
Yeah, this is the wrong show to ask, Lisa. I'm sorry. I agree with you. This is the wrong show to ask.
As I said, I don't know many. There are a few.
Right, there are a few. That's right.